Good evening. Welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, August 13. If you're watching live on Monday, August 13, we encourage you to call in if you have any comments or questions. Our call-in number is 769-1677. Our next regular meeting is 2 weeks from today, Monday, August 27 at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. Had a couple of announcements to make. The first of which is that we have received a notification from the County Health Department that a couple of samples taken from private homes in the Village of Pleasantville of water, which is part of a regular sampling process, have come back with slightly elevated lead and copper levels. We know that the lead and copper levels in the water we supply through our system are well below safe levels, but sometimes in people's private homes, the conditions in their home, potentially their faucets, old lead solder, etc., can add lead and copper to your drinking water. So we are required by the regulations to send out a notification that all of you who are Village of Pleasantville water customers will receive, and it explains some of the ways in which you can reduce the amount of lead and copper in your water. One of the simplest being just to run the water a little bit after you turn it on if it has sat for a long time in the pipes or in the faucet. But there is more detail to come on that, and we'll be sending that out to you, in the next couple of weeks, Patty?
Probably in September when people are all back in town.
So certainly there is no crisis attached to this, but it's something worthwhile for every family to take a look at and consider whether there might be conditions in their house that contribute to elevated lead and copper levels, and if so, there's some advice in the letter as well as some advice about where to go for further information. So keep an eye out for that. I know that lots of people have been waiting for word about the library roof project. I'm happy to report that the main branch of the Mount Pleasant Library here in Pleasantville will open again for business tomorrow morning. 10 a.m.
Yep.
The branch over in Valhalla has been open the whole time and has had extended hours, and everybody over there has been very cooperative to help out during the time period when the main branch was closed while the roof replacement project went on. So back in business at the Mount Pleasant Library tomorrow morning, Tuesday at 10 a.m. Most of you who drive around the village have noticed we're in the midst of our annual repaving project. This year a little broader scope than in some past years. The commuter side of Memorial Plaza has been ground down, as has a piece of Hayes Hill, a piece of Washington Avenue, and Romer and Clinton in the school area. The paving work begins again tomorrow, putting back what we have ground up, and by the end of this week, all of those locations will be back in business. So we thank you for your patience in the meantime. A little necessary period of darkness before light, and we're going to end up with much better conditions on some roads that had suffered quite a bit of damage in recent years. So,
sorry. Shane, there's no sound on Verizon. Now?
You should be able to hear it right now.
Okay. You should be able to hear right now.
Hopefully the caller who just said there was no sound on Verizon will find that it has been fixed. If not, call us back. I want to remind everybody again something we reminded people about a couple of weeks ago, and that is that when you are paying some of your village bills, including your village taxes and your village water bill, you can do so online if you are so inclined. There's a service charge associated with paying with a credit card, but only, I think, a $1 charge associated with paying with a bank debit if you type in your bank account number and routing number. So for anybody who is inclined to do their business online, you can go to pleasantville-ny.gov and log into the customer service portal that allows you to pay those bills online. While you're there, if you're not already signed up for the village email blasts, you can go to subscribe to news, which is a link on almost every page of the pleasantville-ny.gov site. That, for example, is a great means of getting information about various things going on in the village, including, for example, news about when we're grinding up roads and when we're repaving them. So you have the option to opt in or opt out of several different classes of news, and we strongly encourage you to do it. There have been 2 new events in a new Chamber of Commerce program to have grand openings when we have new businesses that arrive in Pleasantville, and I participated in an opening celebration at Louie and Johnny's Cheesesteaks and Clam Bar, which is down near the Thornwood line in the shopping center at the edge of the Village on Marble Avenue, and also at Aunt Bee's Yogurt Shop, which was going on this past weekend, and which included live broadcasts from WHUD. So thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for organizing that. Thanks to all these new businesses for coming in, and we look forward to having many more. Really a great way of getting all of the village to see what's going on in the mercantile world, and also a great opportunity for us to join with government and private commerce to encourage development downtown. So happy to participate in that. On a somewhat darker note, some of you may have read an article that was in the news recently about an appalling act of vandalism that happened in the last week of July. A group of people who are at the moment unknown were drinking and smoking in the All Souls Cemetery on the corner of Marble Avenue and Sunnyside Avenue, and damaged or destroyed about 29 gravestones in that cemetery. So we have talked to the community about acts of vandalism in the past. It would be hard to imagine a more repellent act of vandalism than desecrating graves, 29 of them at that. And the police chief has sent out a press release indicating that they have collected DNA evidence from the scene, and there is a $1,000 reward that has been posted by Holy Innocents Church for the arrest and conviction of the perpetrators. And we very, very strongly encourage anyone with any knowledge of this incident to come forward to the police. The number is 769-1500, and you can do that anonymously. It is hard to imagine that there is anyone living in or around our community that would think it acceptable to upend 29 gravestones, and it will be a very satisfying day when those people are found and brought to justice. So 769-1500. The Pleasantville Police Department, your tips can be anonymous if you wish, and there is a $1,000 reward. Anybody else have something to add to the list there? All right. Is there anyone in the audience that had something they wanted to bring up? Come on up. If you could give us your name and address. Welcome, sir.
John Riley, 45 Hobby Street.
Okay.
Been talking to the police. I've been talking to some people I know in DPW about the situation with parking over in the Cooley Street, Hobby Street area.
Uh-huh.
Tons of commuters are just taking all the spaces from the residents. I don't know what suggestions you have.
So
I have multiple things I'd like to cover.
okay. So well, let's start with that one. So people are driving in the morning, parking
Yeah,
their car.
they're parking their vehicles, leaving them all day.
On
Sometimes, over the weekend, we get some people on Hobby. Mostly, I'd probably want to just talk about from Cooley Street on up. 'Cause I think the lower section's a separate area altogether as far as zoning goes. But even on the weekends, we're getting the 3-day car just going down to the city, leaving the vehicle there, blocking it. I think there's about 3 houses on Hobby Street that actually don't have any driveway or any ability to park a vehicle. And 2 of them have elderly residents, and causes an issue for them.
But the biggest part of the problem is people who don't live there
Yes.
parking their cars for extended periods.
And then also, we do think there is some buildings down there that have multiple apartments over the legal limit that they would have. We had brought up one already, and I think it's been resolved, but there is more.
Okay. If you have concerns about a specific building, I advise you to go to Mike Testa, the building inspector, and report your complaint.
Okay, and as far as garbage in front of properties, I'm pretty
Same-
sure you're not allowed to have your garbage pails right in front of the house. Am I correct on that?
You're correct.
You are correct.
This should be left somewhere rear yard, or it shouldn't be curbside.
Okay, because when I bought my property last year, I moved back to the area after growing up here in the 80s and 90s. It's kind of changed just a lot over in that vicinity of town. It does look great over there, everything you're doing on that side of the road with
Okay.
Pizza Hut and all
Yeah.
the new buildings.
All right. No, you're not supposed to keep your trash cans out front, and
And you're
that
only
seems
supposed to put them
out later
Yeah.
in
Yes.
the evening before.
Okay.
and that seems like an easy problem for the average person to solve.
Yeah,
I mean,
that should be
I would
something simple.
doubt that any homeowner would incur any cost to just drag them around the side of the
Yeah,
back.
and just,
No, but
Yeah.
if they're tenants, that's the problem, because a lot of the tenants don't understand.
Yeah, but the
you know,
landlord is responsible for
That's
enforcing
true.
that, so, okay, so,
Could I go back to parking for a minute? Is there any parking signs on that street now that?
No.
There's nothing there now?
nothing
well,
like the other.
isn't there is a 1-hour time period when parking is
Art
not?
of Wine, next to Art of Wine? isn't
Over
there?
on Cooley there is. There's
Yeah.
nothing actually up on Hobby. I didn't know if possibly we can do something like Great Oak Lane or one of the other streets around here. I
Like
think
with the-
Edgewood has
to
another
prohibit,
one.
like make it from, we just did
Yeah,
this on
1 hour
West
in the middle
Square.
of the day.
In the middle of
Okay.
the day. We did that in West Square for commuters that were parking there.
That's right.
Yeah.
But then it also leaves that issue of there's a few residents that don't have any parking
Right.
in a driveway and they're elderly and do have
Right.
movement issues.
Well, and that's hard to overcome, because we're not allowed to make an exception, an official exception for a resident, but ting everybody else. But by the same token, I mean, we've had this trouble in various neighborhoods where the commuters who are seeking free parking kind of move around from one neighbor to the next, this sort of one step in front of an enforcement effort. And it sounds like we need an enforcement effort in your neighborhood.
Yeah, and DPW actually recently, we spoke to them about the drainage at the end of the street. It had been clogged up. They did a great job cleaning that out.
All the way at the dead end
Yeah,
of Cooley?
all three of them were
Okay.
literally filled almost to the top. They
Okay.
cleaned them all out and
Great.
they said they'll be back after the paved job to clean the street a little bit as well.
Okay.
It's just, and then at the end of the street on the right, I feel like there's an area where maybe it's the kids are going to drink,
Yes.
possibly.
There are.
Because I noticed a chair down there and a couple of beer
Big
cans, and
notice,
I didn't think it was residents because they'll just drink at their house.
All right.
I hope so.
So we'll pass that on to the police chief as well. So.
Okay, and then another thing, at the end of the street on the commercial property,
Right.
I think it's Wildman own both those buildings. There's just a lot of garbage in the front
the
of the
Marble end?
windows. Yes.
Yep.
Marble and Hobby Corner.
Right.
Right there's a lot of garbage in the front window. I'm sure it's something they can clean. I don't know what the rules are in commercial properties, but a couple of them, as you know, don't really look that great over in that vicinity as well. As
Right.
coming around 7-Eleven, that one white building, we've moved to Yorktown since, I think, 2007 maybe.
Yeah, that's the dry cleaner. The-
It was fun time.
Parish.
It was fun
It was
time.
fun
yes.
time.
Yeah.
That is the
Yeah.
subject of a lawsuit against the village at the moment. so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's just coming into
No,
town. It's an
it's-
eyesore for people that.
I do agree. They moved a long time
Okay.
ago, so.
Couple other quick issues. Cooley Street, nobody stops. Coming around Cooley Street, going from this area to make the shortcut to avoid the light, I almost get killed every day.
Up Cooley, left on Hopper?
Yep, left
Hobby, I
on the
mean.
Hobby.
Yeah.
Possibly maybe making the line all the way across. I noticed you guys over the years had put 2 stop signs. And then also that property right there in the corner has very high hedges, so
Uh-huh.
you wouldn't even be able to see vehicles coming up.
Okay.
And they do park a car there, but I understand why, since there's no parking, but you also can't see.
If you're looking to the right,
Yeah, you know, I had that.
if you're at
Anybody
that
ever
stop
go over
sign.
Cooley?
I do.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
do.
But
You know,
you're
you kinda
saying
peek up
You
the
turn
hill.
left, you turn left on.
Yeah, you turn left down on the
Right.
Hobby, and you
Yeah.
really can't see any vehicles coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
If you're
then
looking to the
also,
right.
We could get them.
Oh, yeah, no,
cut
no,
back.
I just
Okay.
want to
Just
make
cut
sure it's
back
to
or-
the
Yeah.
right.
maybe have the police go there, and I know they've said they've gone there and can get a lot of tickets, but you can't be there all the time. And then the last thing is there's 2 vehicles that park right in front of the BP. So if you were coming off of Marble and taking a right or left onto Hobby Street, there's 2 vehicles that have, since they put that sidewalk in, I guess a few years back, have started parking there. So you cannot even get up the road. It literally
By
just blocks the
BP.
whole,
Just like where the.
Yeah, they park on Hobby
tire, tire areas.
Oh, okay, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
so if you're trying to pull up the street, they're blocking the
Mhm.
way up the street.
Right. That just happened to me the other day.
And you
Yeah.
could be stuck there for quite a while. A lot of cars are
Right.
cutting through Cooley Street as
Right.
well.
All right, but that, so we would need to restrict that parking because at
That
the
would
moment
have to be-
it's not restricted.
Yes,
They're
not
parking
restricted.
legally, but it's a bad arrangement.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
That
it's a
one's
setback.
definitely-
You need a setback there.
Right.
I think that's.
Well, it's not even the setback, it probably shouldn't be parking from
No
like 8 to
parking.
4,
Right.
not during, maybe
Or
after
maybe not
hours.
at all.
it's-
I think
Or
they
not
might-
at all.
maybe
So let's
not
take a
at
look
all.
at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll drive over there tomorrow too.
Oh, I'll
Need
send it
setback
to,
there.
we'll send it to PSC.
Yeah.
I think that's all I can think about.
I mean, that whole parking area up there, Art of Wine complains all the time that there's just no parking
Yeah.
for him. And it's just long-term parking, you're right. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think most of the neighborhoods always had issues with commuters, and I noticed over the past few years when I've come up to visit that I guess they've been doing 1 hour parking signs in other parts of town.
Right.
Yeah, they should have the same thing, 1 hour parking up around their Subway and Art of Wine. You just
Well, Subway
give
has
them a
that
break.
little parking lot behind the building. That
Is that
for Subway,
Subway's or is
it
that
That's the dry cleaners?
That's the dry
cleaners.
cleaners.
That's not
You can't
Subway.
Does it say no parking?
It's set up so strangely, though. I think you really can only get like 3 cars in there the way they have
And
it.
you don't know where
It goes
the
straight.
ingress and the
Yeah,
egress, it's
um,
really tough.
But you're right, it should be limited.
That should be an hour.
So that they
That's
can
a-
ticket.
PSC should take a look
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah, I'm going to send.
Well, we
them a
have the
few of
extra
these things.
volume of people because the multifamilies in the neighborhood,
Exactly.
and then add on
Yeah.
the commuter
Do you
parking.
know who Mike Testa is? His office
Yes.
is down on the first floor. That's who you should contact.
Okay.
All right, so I thank you for that, and you should, if you have specific concerns about a specific building, Mike's the guy to talk to.
Okay.
But these general concerns we'll jump on.
Okay. I appreciate it.
And John,
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John, he's out
Appreciate
until
it.
next Monday, just so you know.
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate it.
All right, is there anybody else who, welcome?
Thank you. My name is Andrew Selesnik. I live at 39 Green Meadow Road. I'm here with some of our neighbors from the road tonight. We've been here before to talk about the drainage issues on the road. I came with Steve Lord some months ago.
Right.
We're here actually related to the road paving that you mentioned earlier tonight, and we're wondering if while the town is doing that paving, some of it immediately adjacent to our road on Hayes Hill, there's any chance of paving the north end of our road, which continues to be damaged by the runoff from the water that we've talked about in the past. That goes back, I think, about 60 years or so to a decision, obviously not made by any of you, with the Summit construction up there where the water, there was no appropriate drainage done up there. So we continue to pay annually to sort of patch up the road as best we can. And we were just wondering if there's any way, while there's the equipment and the paving materials there, for the village to try and do something about it so that we don't have to continue to, we'll continue anyway, probably in years to come, but for this year at least, if there's any way the village can perhaps not even do the scraping piece first, but just lay a layer of asphalt down on top.
Our immediate problem is that we are extremely limited by law about what we can do on a private road.
Right.
Because we don't own the road. And the reason we're repaving the section of Green Meadow from Church to Hayes Hill is because we dug it up, and in fact now have an easement under it for the new water and storm drain pipes that we installed.
Right.
So normally we couldn't even have repaved that part, so I think it is an obstacle to our being able to solve the problem you present. It's funny, I had a conversation with our new superintendent of public works recently about the whole Summit, Hayes Hill, St. Jude, Green Meadow drainage question, and he's been up there, he's a professional engineer, and the long-term solution to it is, potentially a big, expensive, problematic thing,
Right.
requiring somebody with a hillside property to give us an easement down the side of the hill. But even separate from that, he was cautiously optimistic that there might be some steps that could be taken that could improve the whole situation for everybody short of some massive project. But I am not certain that there's any way we could actually pave a private road. Patty, do you agree?
What if they hired us to do so?
Excuse me, that's a village call, so let me just take this.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
It's,
That was Peter.
we're prohibited by law from being contracted out for services. We can't contract our
Even though it's
service.
an extension up.
Yeah.
What about,
I mean, we can, we may be able to work with the people that are working with us to get, to get them there while they are in the village and get a good rate to get it done. But I spoke to Jeff, who the mayor just referred to, about this, and he said we won't be able to get away with just putting an overlay of asphalt on that road. He said it does need to be milled. It really needs to be taken down to a harder, a hard pan base, and then overlaid. And there does need to be just a little bit of engineering involved because drainage patterns will
Right.
change if we touch that road again, and we have to be
You just
sure
can't throw the asphalt on top of
where
it.
the water is going. So it's a little more difficult than just, the good news is, if there is good news, that we don't have to act as quickly as it may appear, because we not only are we paving the roads that we just talked about now in the parking lot, but we are paving another road probably by late October, which is on Parkway Terrace, the other end of the village. So we'll be back with all this equipment, and
Okay.
we may be able to address that portion then. And Jeff just asked that we give some opportunity for him to think about how this could resolve if we are going to see it done. Mayor, what I was saying is that it's not as urgent as it may appear, because we are going to be repaving again in a month or two at the end of Parkway Terrace when that job gets done. That job is just starting. So we'll have everybody back in town with paving equipment and milling equipment and the like. So, but our superintendent also said that it's imperative that the road be milled, that we just don't throw asphalt down, or you just don't throw asphalt down. And also, he said that there is a reason, many reasons to be sure that we understand what the profile of the road should be, in advance of creating, a more impervious surface up there. Because right now it's pretty beat up, but it's actually channeling water in the way water has found its course. And if we or you end up paving it, it's going to create more of a flume-like condition up there. We need to know where that water is going to go. So there's a lot to think about.
Life is not as easy as I wish it were.
Right.
What I'd like to do is maybe have an opportunity to meet up there with Jeff and with you and some of the neighbors, and just
All right, that sounds
talk
great.
out what these issues are, so we can frame them and we can be sure we're approaching it right, because we know something needs to get done. And we also had that other discussion whether or not to take that road up in its entirety and just abandon that portion, that upper portion.
That meaning the section across the bottom of the St. Jude property.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the extension beyond the end of.
Right.
And put some kind of infiltrators in there to collect water so it doesn't come down with the type
Right.
of
One
force
question
it
there
comes
is
down.
whether there was some suggestion that that piece of the road was a potential emergency route for emergency vehicles headed to St. Jude's. I'm not sure that it really is viable as that anyway.
Yeah.
Certainly not in the winter.
Right.
And we might be able to capture some of that water and help protect your neighborhood a bit further too. So, I'll tell you, if you could give your contact info to Patty, then let's line up that meeting. I'd be happy to attend to.
Yeah,
And wander the site.
sooner than later would be better, probably within the next week or two, if we can
Okay.
get people together.
That's great.
All right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Let's go then to our resolutions. Colleen, number 151.
Resolved that pre-check register dated August 13th, 2012, covering check numbers 73,000 through 73,184 have been reviewed, and they are hereby approved as listed below from the general fund, water fund, capital fund, refuse fund, pool fund, special purpose fund, trust and agency, totaling $325,047.57.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there comments or questions? Patty, I had one question. Patty, in the check, sorry. In the check register, we have 4 checks from us to the Pleasantville Water Department. That's just a required paper transaction.
Yeah, we pay our bills,
Yeah.
Village Hall, for the
Yeah.
Parkland sprinklers. I don't know which they are in here, but
Yeah,
it's
no, it's the ambulance building and
Okay, yeah.
the garage, all that, so.
it's what it is.
Is it necessary to do that as a check versus some other form of accounting entry? Whatever, Mary, I'm sure knows what to do. It's
Yeah, it's a good, it's
I
a
would be the
legitimate
last person to
question.
challenge her on that.
Yeah.
Got it, you're right.
There's an audit
All
trail
right,
here.
any other questions?
No.
right,
All in
thank you,
favor?
people.
Aye.
Thank you for
Aye,
coming.
motion approved. Mailing number.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, July 23rd, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there comments or corrections to the minutes?
discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Jonathan?
A resolve that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village clerk to notice a public hearing for Monday, August 27, 2013, at 8 p.m. prevailing time, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, to hear comments as it pertains to amending the Village Code, Chapter 173, Vehicles and Traffic, Sections 173-60 and 163-63 as follows. Pertaining to Sections 173-60, parking prohibited at all times. We're proposed to delete Romer Avenue on the west side, location from Bedford Road west for 360 feet, as well as Romer Avenue west from Clinton Street west for 50 feet. And add seemingly the same thing back again.
Yes, the direction of traffic is, was
South.
incorrect in the other
It's south
description.
instead of west, and
Okay.
north instead of west.
So you're correct. We're just cleaning it up to read the west side of Romer, there'd be prohibited parking from Bedford Road
I got
south.
you, on the location side.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So it's a Scribner's kind of thing here.
That
Okay,
is,
gotcha.
yes, yes.
Okay, and in sections 173-63, parking prohibited certain hours, Romer Avenue West, 7 a.m., we're going to add 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and from 2 to 4 on school days, location from a point 50 feet north of Clinton Street for a distance of 250 feet.
Is that, no,
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
is that a change?
Only for probably 50 or 60 feet of the street. Most of it is currently restricted. There's just a small portion by the library driveway that is not, that the library board and our police chief recommend
Yeah.
that it be restricted during these times as well.
We actually met with the police chief. We also had folks from Mount Pleasant come. I mean, the library is a problem at dismissal time, in particular, the library parking lot in that street. And the parking is not the same
Right.
along the whole street. And all we're trying to do here is to make the restriction exactly the same for the entire street.
Most of it is restricted from
Yeah.
the driveway
No,
toward...
that's not true. It's not for the entire street. There's restricted parking in the morning and the afternoon.
Right.
And you're talking about that section from the middle school driveway that goes
To the
up
library
towards
entrance, to the
library. Then there are a
cutout.
couple of places.
Yeah.
And the reason that prohibition of parking happened in the first place was to allow buses to come up the middle school driveway and make the turn. That's the only reason.
Well, the problem, though, that exists today is that, folks are using the library as a pickup stand for their children. There is a major parking problem in the lot. There's people stopping. You can't make the right turn out of the parking lot of the library because there are cars parked there. And because the crossing guard has got traffic stopped in the interest of the safety for children, there's nobody moving on Romer. So to try and make a right out of the library lot is impossible with those two or three cars parked there. So the idea was to let it match the whole street, which would open up that right turn just for those times during the day.
And we can have that discussion on this night. But I will just say that the problem that I see, and I just, for those of you who don't know, that's where I live. So I see it. But it has nothing to do with me, because I actually, it's a very congested part of Pleasantville a couple of times during the day, but it's also a very slow part of Pleasantville. And the worry that I have is that in the future, we all get good ideas to remove parking and make it, one way, and we can speed that traffic and make it truly dangerous. But right now, kids aren't getting hit. And it's okay. Is it dangerous? Well, because you have 3 schools and a library all in one, congested place, it's by definition a dangerous place. I don't think you're going to remove totally the danger, and I certainly think that by streamlining, the traffic on that road, I'm not sure that's the answer.
I don't think that the speed necessarily of getting out was the issue. The issue is the cut-in to the library parking lot really acts as a crosswalk for children, because they get coming out of the middle school, they cross across Romer, and then they walk up and they can cross Bedford
That's right.
Road there.
That's right.
Cars that can't get out are parked right in the center of that cut-in to the library. So we have kids walking around the cars to the front and the back as they're trying to exit. So what they're looking for is, because it's like a logjam there. So, I don't think anybody's doing it so that we can speed traffic along. I think the interest is safety, is that we can keep people out of that crosswalk and keep things moving. I don't think anything's going to move quickly, to be honest with you, from 2:30 to 3 o'clock ever on
It's
a
backed
school
up
day.
anyway.
It's backed up. But, the police chief came up and watched what went on up there several days in June, and, was certainly concerned and thought that would be, we talked about a lot of other things as well, and that seemed to be the least, the least intrusive. That we talked about not making left turns out of there. We talked about closing the parking lot. We've talked about a lot of things because it's so dangerous up there, but this seemed to be a good compromise that would keep people out of that crosswalk, cars out of that crosswalk, so.
All right, so that's a preview of the discussion
Yeah.
to be had when we have the public hearing. So did we have a second on that? You got a second?
Yes, you did.
Okay. So the resolution is for the public hearing on these matters Monday, August 27, 2 weeks from today. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. So anybody who has specific issues or concerns about that, if you can attend or call in 2 weeks from tonight, please do so. If you expect to be out of town, you can forward your comments to Patty Dwyer or Judy Weintraub at Village Hall. Number 154. Whose is that? I've lost
Not you,
track.
Brian.
That's me.
Right.
Oh, it's a good one.
It is.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the following donations from Community Markets, the amount of $1,800 towards farmers market initiatives, and an anonymous donation of $100 to senior center programs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks in both cases. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Number 155.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign the agreement from Turner & Turner, 65 South Broadway, Tarrytown, New York, as per the terms set forth in their letter agreement dated July 9, 2012, with respect to cable franchise negotiations.
Is there a second?
Second.
We are in the midst of required negotiations with Cablevision. Our franchise agreement with them expired many years ago, and amid the elaborate shenanigans associated with cable TV negotiations between Cablevision and Verizon, it has been a long, tortured path that we need to bring to a close. Turner & Turner has expertise in this area, and therefore we propose in this to have an agreement with Turner & Turner. Happy to note that Turner himself is in the audience. Possibly the last time we'll see him off the clock.
I have a,
Oh, how do you know he's, well, there you go.
I have a concern / question. I know in the email it states approximately what the total cost of this would be, but I'm not really comfortable with approving something that doesn't really have an end to it, or limit. If we can sunset the dollar amount of not to exceed.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Rick and I can get to that point. I mean, once you agree to the hourly rates, and then we can come back to the board if we think there's
Now,
going to be
is this,
exceedances.
Patty,
but
specific to the cable franchise and not to the
There are two
wireless?
components here. No, there are
Right.
two efforts that'll
Right.
be expended. The first will be to get us through the franchise negotiation, which is probably the easiest effort to get through, since, it's a heavily regulated process, and, our options are limited on how we're going to explore, the negotiations anyway. The second is dealing with telecommunications more broadly, and dealing with particularly some aspects of our village code which probably are no longer relevant. We have antenna laws, we have satellite dish laws, we have cellular wireless facilities laws, and we have a Cable Act, which I don't think is applicable anymore. So I've asked Rick, and his colleagues to look at our code, scrub it clean, and if these laws no longer apply, we would certainly have a recommendation to the village board to either amend them or delete them, because they're superseded by federal laws now anyway. And
It's very
also,
costly.
sorry?
It's very costly.
Sure, but we're in a situation where we
And I-
can't
I-
rely on obsolescence, we
I
have to be,
totally agree.
it's just an effort we have to make. So the second part of that effort would be
Sorry.
to recommend to this board how to go about dealing with the moratorium that's in place, And we've had some discussion on that as well.
And I apologize, because I know when Rick was in, I came in late. The question I have is basically the cable franchise agreement that we have, and I'm not interested in talking about strategy or anything like that tonight, but the cable franchise, my understanding of the cable franchise agreement is that basically we have very little as a community ability to really negotiate much from that. If what Cablevision's chosen to do, which apparently they have with some minor tweaks, it looked like, from the cable franchise agreement, is they took Verizon's contract and inserted their name in there,
They did.
which
That's
is
correct.
by right what they're allowed to do.
That's right.
So my question is, if we're paying some premium dollars for specialized legal advice, exactly, is there any chance that what we get out from it is any savings that we would otherwise not maybe get from our regular per diem legal advice that we get otherwise? I mean, is there any wiggle room, any strategies that we may come from this that justify paying a premium price for something that basically Cablevision's opted to do what we've been told they could do, which is just insert their name and say, here it is, approve it?
I don't think we're required to accept the terms of their contract as they present it. We are required to live under the terms of the so-called level playing field rules that Albany presents. But I also think it's clear that level playing field doesn't mean that both contracts have to, be literally identical, fill in the blank, your name here. So,
Okay, I'm sorry, Peter.
Yeah.
That's different than what I've heard every lawyer that I've been involved with on this say in the last 7 years that I've been involved in negotiating this, is that the advantage of that you always had with Cablevision is they refused to do that. But if they ever chose to do that, you'd have very little wiggle room. And both sides have argued that. So
I didn't say we had a lot of wiggle room.
I'm just asking,
Yeah.
do we have enough wiggle room to justify premium pricing for something that is basically, by all accounts, unless I'm wrong, a fait accompli?
It's my opinion, first of all, I don't want the community to...
I mean, we're looking at a possible cost of anywhere from $1,500 and up for the cable franchise
Well, I mean, 15
negotiation.
to 5.
Which I think-
Again, I don't know
I
if
think
that's
the- you know,
incremental or what. So I'm just.
think
I'm
you're
only
more-
asking the
I mean,
question.
I understand, but I
relative
think-
to the fees we have paid in the past in similar circumstances, I don't think it qualifies as premium pricing. We clearly need to be
Right.
represented by an attorney, and Turner & Turner are well experienced in this realm.
No doubt about
on
that.
both sides of the table.
But
so-
to Jonathan's point, we went through this exercise already on this specific subject when we were negotiating the Verizon contract with our village attorneys, and we got opinion.
And we were not represented in that by our village attorneys.
No.
We had special counsel for that
Or
because...
whomever,
Right.
we got an opinion. So-
Okay, I'm fine with it. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that, indeed, that there is a strategy to potentially have. And again, it may not be premium pricing. It may be the exact same rates that we get from Keen & Bean. I somewhat think that that's probably not true, but it doesn't really matter as long as there's a value to what Turner and Turner are bringing in regards to just the cable franchise agreement negotiations. Because if there is, and I'm all in favor of it, Rick, that's because I am been a big fighter against this whole thing. So if you're telling me we can put some leverage into this situation, I'm all on board. If what it is just looking over the documents and saying, yep, they put their name in where Verizon did, and and that's it, and you guys have to take it, then.
There's more to it, I'll stay at it.
Okay, fine. Thank you. If there's more to it, then that's fine. That's my only concern.
So, my personal opinion is that this is an appropriate, indeed necessary expenditure, and I am inclined to vote for it.
I do too, but I'd like a cap. I don't want to be spending,
All right, well,
$25,000.
right. We're accepting the terms in their letter, and we can modify
We're
this resolution to say, consistent with the terms determined by the village administrator.
without prejudice,
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that acceptable to the mover? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Is there any further new business?
Oh, I just did want to say that I went down to the site of the new recreation center, and it's really looking really, I almost got arrested, but.
Did you leave that door
By
open?
my own sergeant, but wanted to know why I was peeking in the windows, because the guys had left early that day, and I had got down there, and it looks wonderful. It really looks great.
It will be very nice. You'll be very happy with it.
So,
Great.
for those who may have missed the other discussions of this, the old ambulance corps building is in the midst of a modest renovation to turn it into a rec center. And we're expecting to move in mid to later fall,
That's
Okay.
safe to say that,
Okay.
yeah. Sooner, I hope.
if not before.
Good.
All right, I just had two other things I want to report, and that is that we believe that the purchase of the MLA property by Henkel's from the Stop and Shop Corporation is moving along. Had a couple of minor breakthroughs in some procedural stuff that was in the way this past week, and I believe I'm correct that the Planning Commission has approved the site plan, and they are
They're finished before
through that
the board,
process.
yes,
So
yes.
I hope that we have good news to report and fairly soon. The other thing I wanted to mention was that, as we have mentioned in the past, the former Baker property site, which is that office campus that's on the high side of Washington Avenue, about midway down Washington Avenue, has been vacant for some period of time, and the current owner, Benenson Equities, has been marketing that property, and we have reason to believe that they have signed or will shortly sign a contingent contract to sell that to a residential developer. So when more information is available that the developer is ready to make public, we will present that, and then of course it'll go through the process of what would almost certainly require a zoning change, since the property is currently zoned for campus office use. And there'll be plenty of opportunities, both in the context of the zoning change review and also in the site plan review at the Planning Commission, for anybody who has issues, concerns, or advice to offer it. But the short version of what will be probably a fairly long story is that we do expect that in the coming months there will be a proposal on the table to develop the Baker property site for residential use. And although the details are yet to be determined, and everyone will have their own opinion about it, certainly the overall fact that that property, which has been moribund for a few years now, has the potential to come back to life, is good news for the village and a vote of confidence for our village real estate base. So more on that as soon as we have it. Anything else?
Okay. Good.
If there's no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Our next meeting is 2 weeks from today, August 27th. We'll be headed into a work session and then later an executive session tonight on various other matters. Look forward to meeting with you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Bye, Mom.
Good night.
Thank you.